Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be looking at something special because this is something we've not featured on our channel before. It's a full electric car that is only meant for city driving because it's a Dacia Spring with 45 horsepower and an electric range of 230 kilometers. Why is it only for city driving? Well, it's very small. It is a total, well, it's long, 3 meters and 74 centimeters, and it's only 1 meter and 58 centimeters wide. So it's a very small car, so it's a pretty compact car as well. In the front there are a couple of things I'm kind of uncertain about. For instance, we have an LED daytime running light, but below that we have our normal light, which is a halogen one, which I don't understand. They could have just made one LED one because the halogen also uses more energy, so it's not that great for the battery. In the middle we have our charging port, which I have to open from the inside. For the charging port, you're able to charge this car at a fast charging station and also at a wall box. The max you can charge with is 30 kilowatts an hour, which it's going to go from 10 to 80% in around 50 minutes. You have a total battery usage of, or battery capacity of 26.8 kilowatts, which is not that big, but it only gets you around 230 kilometers. But we'll look at that a little bit more once we're actually driving because we have already charged it. The other thing I'm not completely sure about is the front, because you might have to, or you might expect that you have a frunk in there. But look at this, you have so much space in it, it looks like you could probably fit somebody in there. And the other thing that's kind of weird is also this right here, you have to put it in there and it doesn't seem that stable, to be quite fair. And also the cable just hangs in here and could get ripped out if you're not, well, it can't, but it just looks like it can if you go all the way up. There's a lot of tension on it, so I don't know about that. And that's not, no, it is, cool. The other thing that you have in the front, you do have, because it's a cheap car, you do have the plastic. I haven't actually said what the car costs. It starts at 22,750 euros. And this one right here costs around 25,000 euros. So we've just picked up the Dacia Spring from Cologne and we're back on our way to Kassel, and we've plugged it in because we've been driving for around 160, 170?
170, yeah.
170 kilometers, and we have gone out, well, we still have around 30 kilometers of range left. The range that it says is 230, but we have plugged it in now, and the max speed that we can actually charge at is 33 kilowatts an hour, and what we are currently reaching is the max we can get is 30 kilowatts an hour, and we are at 33, so yeah, 10 to 80% is going to take you around 50 minutes when you're loading at around 30, so we should be done around 45 minutes or something like that, which is fairly decent. No. Let's take a look at the side, where the first thing you notice is the pretty small wheels, which are 14-inch rims, and they're fairly small, and everything on here is plastic, so it's actually fairly good for a city car because you can't scratch the rims, or if you do, they're going to be pretty cheap to replace. You can also see the Spring Electric sign on here with a nice little black touch, which I personally like, and we also don't have any blacked out side mirrors, side windows. But we do also have drum brakes on the back and also disc brakes in the front. That's basically it for the side. Let's take a look at the back. Well, there's not really much to it. You can see the new Dacia logo on here, more plastic on the back. And then to open the back is pretty cool because you have to press this button and then go below it, and then it goes up automatically. And you can see you don't really have any isolation here. For instance, up on the top you have the motor for the windshield wiper, which I've previously not seen, and everything in here, there's no cover to it, so it's full chassis in there. In here we have 290 liters of storage, and it goes up to 1,100 liters of storage. But like I said, because the cables are in here, it's not the nicest thing. Also below it, if you look under the, if I can open it, we do also have a spare tire in there, which is pretty cool. So you do have that in there. If you would, you could just take that out and put the charging cable under it, so you have a little bit more space. But let's actually flip over the back seat so you can see how it looks when it's fully flipped over. You do have a pretty big lip in here, so fitting something through here is not the nicest thing. But in general, 1,100 liters should be completely fine for your daily usage when you're driving in the city to get like the most grocery stuffs in there. So it should work completely fine. And if you want more storage, you can obviously take this out on the top as well. The back is also very minimalistic. There's not really much to it. You can see I don't really have any space. I'm already into the back of the seat. The good thing about that, it's not like a plastic back, but it's a fabric back, so you can actually put your feet in there fairly well. They go in there pretty far. And also the headroom is not that much. I'm only 1.80 meters tall, so 5'11", and I have like 4 centimeters of space. And then you can also see if I want to go out the side, I'm just always going to go put my head against it. I've actually hit it like so many times because you can see I'm already taller than the actual side window. But in general, it's just made for a little bit more smaller people in the back. The seats are, again, out of leather, not that comfortable over a long time. I don't think it's going to be that comfortable in here, but they're not bad just for like city drives in general. You do actually have electric windows in the back, which is cool, but there's no music box, nothing in here. You don't have anything in the middle like a climate control or USB ports or anything like that. You don't have anything in the middle due to the fact that you obviously don't have an exhaust pipe or anything like that. But that's basically in the back. You don't really have any space in here, and the ISOFIX points are also fairly well hidden, so it's kind of hard to reach them, to be completely fair. But that's basically it for the back. In the interior, Dacia also definitely did some saving because it's very minimalistic, but it starts at 22,000 euros. If you compare it, for instance, to Volkswagen e-up, it starts at around 30,000 euros. So this is definitely a lot cheaper, and you can definitely feel that as well. Like, there's nothing that's non-plastic apart from the door handle, which is... Actually, no, that's also plastic. Never mind, let's not talk about that. The steering wheel is also very minimalistic. You have basically no buttons on here apart from voice controls and your speed limiter. It's not a cruise control, so it's speed limiter, so it only goes up to maximum speed. We'll look at that once we're actually driving. Also, a weird thing is that the buttons for your windows are on the middle, so you always, like, the first time I was driving it, I always tried to reach over here, but then the window button is actually there. And you also have one USB port, that's the only thing you have, and your voice controls or your controls are also only up here. Your navigation display, you only get this nowadays in the Essential 65, so you have to get the bigger engine to be able to actually get the navigation display. Then down here we also have our speeding limiter, where you can turn it off and on. You actually can turn off traction control, which is a pretty cool thing. You do have a pretty big storage area in there. And then down here is your parking brake. It's not a handbrake, it's a parking brake. You also have leather seats, which I'm not a big fan of, and it's just very claustrophobic in here. If you're driving with two people, you're always going to reach your hands in the middle because you can see there's basically no space in between. But in general, the car is meant to be just for a city car and just drive slowly. One thing that's also very annoying if you're driving this car, if you're a little bit taller, you can't change the height or the angle of the steering wheel, and you also can't change the height or the angle of the seat, which makes it very, very hard if you're driving over a long time. The chassis basically goes in, and it's your wheel that is in there, so you can't actually place your foot anywhere, and after a time it gets very, very, very frustrating. And the surrounding view is also, again, great. You can see out the back, and everything is, because you're sitting up so high, it's also fairly nice to see out. But you can definitely hear the isolation starts kicking in at around 60 kilometers. You can definitely hear the wind noise and everything because there's basically no isolation, as you can see here right there. Even if we looked in the front, you can see there's just a little bit of styrofoam on the side, and that's the only isolation you actually get. Other than that, there's basically no isolation. But the steering, when you're driving slower, it's basically the same as in the Dacia Duster, where it's very... Like, it's kind of like a go-kart, but it also feels pretty cool. But when you're driving really slow, it's just so light, the steering, that I'm not a big fan of it because it's way too light. But if you're trying to park, it's very easy to get in, but it just doesn't feel right in my opinion. You need a little bit more resistance when you're driving. And definitely if you're driving way faster than, well, if you're driving on the open road, over 100 kilometers, I mean, you can only go up to 130 kilometers or 125. We've actually been able to get 130 on the Autobahn, but I definitely wouldn't recommend that because the car is because it only weighs around a ton. When you're driving past a bigger truck, the wind that comes from the side just makes you very unstable and just doesn't feel that great. But because the car is so small, it's great for the city driving because you can basically fit through every single small gap. You can get parking positions with the surrounding view or the rear view camera and also some sensors on the back. It's fairly safe. And overtaking also a biker, fairly good. That wasn't even full power actually. Well, it showed me it was full power, but it definitely didn't press the full pedal. Let's actually do a 0 to 100 test as well because Dacia claims 19.1 seconds. We'll see how fast we can actually get because I don't feel like we are going to get close to that. And that acceleration is just insane. It's pure comedy. .38. That took basically the whole road. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I don't think we're going to try that again because that is, 23 seconds. I mean, the best we have been able to get was 20.78, something like that. But definitely not something you'd want. And for a city car, it's completely fine. Obviously, if you want a little bit more power, 13 seconds, you could get the 65 horsepower version, which is a little bit quicker. It does actually have a fairly good kick for 45 horsepower. If you want to accelerate out somewhere, it does actually get you up there pretty quickly. So it doesn't actually feel like it only has 45 horsepower, because it feels like once you're accelerating out of something, it does have that kick right away because it's electric. So it does kick out a little bit more. That's great for even trying to overtake like a slower car in the front, or if you're going on a faster road up to 100 kilometers an hour. You can do it, but it's just, if you're going on the highway, it's not great for a longer journey. It's just a pure city car, and that's what it's meant for, and it's perfect for that in my opinion. And then you can also see the display in the middle. We just have a small little LCD display in the middle, which just shows you your speed, your range, how much you've been driving, and also the temperature outside and what your battery charge is. And on the side, you do have it shows you how friendly you're going. If you're going full power, you can see the power goes up. And then if you're in the eco mode, and then it does have recuperation, but it doesn't actually have a one-pedal drive. So recuperation is basically the only thing that you have for regenerating your battery in here. So you don't have a one-pedal drive that you expect from an electric car, but rather recuperation that you can actually change the intensity of, which is not that great. So what's my final verdict on the Dacia Spring? Well, it's a perfect car for city driving with a fairly decent range for a city car. You can charge it overnight and just use it to get to work or stuff like that, pick up the children, go for a small grocery shop, something like that. It's cheap. It's definitely cheaper than, for instance, a Volkswagen e-Up, which is, I think, around 7,000 euros cheaper. And it does the job. It's also a four-door car. You should really only be buying the car if you're trying to use it as a city car. Over a long range, it's definitely not comfortable, and also the range is going to deplete very quickly if you're going at faster speeds. But that's basically my final verdict on it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.